So you were aware that Xiaomi released their first ever foldable phone. And yet, you're still waiting for that Mi Mix 4. So do I. And here comes the Mi Mix Fold. Xiaomi keeps their selling point on the Mi Mix having that full screen, almost bezel-less screen. The Mi Mix Fold. So you've seen everything that's inside the box of the Mi Mix Fold, and this is another revolution and innovation of Xiaomi. But not the first of its kind in the smartphone industry, but this is the first ever by Xiaomi. So this phone really reminds me a lot of my phone back then. I have the Nokia 9500 communicator and it's really looking the same. Having that phone back then is really something cool to have. Having to type like something like this, folded, then you can type it. It's really cool. And you probably have everything on this phone back then. And it's probably a throwback of that series, the communicator series back then. And for me, I kind of like the grip on this phone. It's pretty nice to grip on. And having to type messages on this phone on the front screen is really something nostalgic. Having those smaller phones back then, wherein you can type easily and grip your phone easily, not having to think of how to reach the farthest left of the screen just to press the letter A or the letter Q. It's kind of hard these days. Now, the front screen reminds me a lot of the communicator series, having that elongated screen, but this time around, it's so nice. Unlike before, the display is, well, pretty crappy. This screen sports a 6.52-inch AMOLED display together with a 90Hz screen refresh rate. And of course, it's Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protected. It also has a HDR10 Plus, also a Dolby Vision display, and the pixel ratio is 840 by 2520. Now, the frames on this phone is aluminum finished, plus the back is also a Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Except when you get the highest version, the 16GB of RAM, 512GB of storage, is sporting a ceramic back. And of course, it's a little bit heavier at 332 grams compared to the 317 grams on the normal edition. This phone comes in 3 different variants. Either you go for 12GB of RAM, 256GB of storage, or you go for the 12GB of RAM, 512GB of storage. Both have the Corning Gorilla Glass 5 back. The special one is the 16GB of RAM, 512GB of storage, which comes with a ceramic back. Both of them are UFS 3.1 ready. Let's talk a little bit about the unfolded display of this phone, the Mi Mix Fold. It has an 8.01-inch foldable OLED together with a 60Hz screen refresh rate, HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision, and it has a pixel ratio of 1860 by 2480. And inside this one is definitely a plastic display. Of course, for you to fold it. And did you know that this inside display is as big as that of my iPad mini 2? Watching some movies here on this phone, I can say that I really enjoyed it. Having a big screen like this one, though I cannot fully maximize the display. Of course, the ratio being rendered on YouTube is different from the one being used on this phone, the inside display. But nevertheless, I can say I really enjoyed it. It has 4 speakers, 4 Harman Kardon speakers, and it's really firing out loud. It can fill in my 30 square meter room with music. That's how loud it is. I did try to explore and try to unlock the PC mode of this phone, but too bad I spent for around 1 hour researching and trying different kind of 3-finger swipe on this phone, but it wouldn't show up. And well, probably Xiaomi has taken it off this MIUI 12. Probably they will relaunch it soon. Maybe after they perfected it. Now, probably one of the best things to enjoy on this phone is definitely gaming. I've tried to play 2 games on this phone. I played Call of Duty and Genshin Impact. Both of them I can unlock the highest settings. Of course, this phone having a Snapdragon 888. It's a 5nm chip together with a 5G capability. It has an octa-core processor which can run up to 2.84 GHz of speed. Now, let's check the gameplay. Now, on Call of Duty, I can say that the display is nice. I have a wide view on the battlefield and I can say that playing this game is definitely nice. Though the phone is a little bit heavy to carry around 317 grams, it's not really easy to carry a console this heavy. And of course, playing the game, I can say that, well, I can see a little bit of that fold on the middle, but though it's not that irritating, just need to get a little bit used to it. But of course, definitely the gameplay, it's smooth, it's nice. Though the 60 Hz of screen refresh rate could have been a little bit let down on this display. I've been playing a lot of games on 90 Hz refresh rate, 144 Hz refresh rate, 120 Hz refresh rate, but this one, well, could have spelled the difference. But of course, this is the first generation, can't really expect too much from it. And of course, the gameplay is so nice. Having to play the game in such a big display and big angle view is definitely very accommodating on this phone. I really had a good time, especially I don't feel much of that frame drops on other phones. This one is definitely a stunner. Now, I tried also to play Genshin Impact on this phone. I can say that it's equally as good as the Call of Duty. Having that wide view on the battlefield, I can say that I probably love to play more games compared to the smaller phones. Now let's talk a little bit about the benchmark on this phone. It has an 813,000 points on Antutu, which definitely is very welcoming, and of course, I expect nothing less from the Snapdragon 888, which I should have this score. And slingshot on this phone is definitely maxed out. And of course, I expect nothing less from the Snapdragon 888, especially on a flagship phone like this one. Geekbench also gave it a good score, 918 on a single, and 2,715 on multi-core. Nice scores. Checking screen refresh rate on inside is definitely a 60 Hz, no doubt about that. DRM info gave it a level 1 wideband security level, which is good. Now, I did take this phone out for a little walk, and definitely it's nice. Having to try out 5G signals on both telcos from the Philippines, Globe and Smart. I did try the speed test, and both did gather not so good scores or speed. Of course, here in the Philippines, of course, 5G is still on its infant stage. But what's important here is I can attain 5G signal on this phone. So meaning, it's ready here in the Philippines. Now let's focus ourselves a little on the battery of this phone. It has a 5,020 milliampere hours, which can charge up to 67 watts of fast charging. And I did rate it on my watt meter. Too bad I only gathered 38 watts, but charging speed is quite fast. I drained the battery down to 18% and charged it back up to 100 using, of course, the default cable and the default charger from the box. I finished charging in just 48 minutes. Pretty fast. And I did a little battery stress test on this phone. I know that this phone could probably drain your battery faster than other phones in the market, having that bigger screen size. 8-incher is definitely no joke. It can really eat up your battery. I tried to open up this phone and try to do a little battery stress test. It gave it a 9 hours and 14 minutes of screen on time, which is for me not really bad. But in real life usage, I did also try it after a week. I can say that in just less than a day, of course, when you always use the inside display, it can probably last me up to 3/4 or 70% of the day. And I really need to hit the charging dock because it really drains the battery fast. Now, this phone also supports Wi-Fi 6, 5G connectivity on network, and it also has a side fingerprint scanner, which is reacting pretty fast. Now, what I really like about this phone is that the display is pretty big on the inside, and it has a little bit of protruded bezels here to prevent the screen from sticking onto itself. Probably might bump into some problems on the near future, but nevertheless, the bezels are symmetrical, which makes it really nice to look at, and it's not really that thick. Now, when you fold the phone, I highly suggest that you a little bit hold the middle of this screen before you're folding it to make sure that it has maximum protection. Don't just make a sandwich out of it and probably it might snap. Of course, you're not the hawk. I cannot even close it using one hand. If you ask me if the line on the middle is visible, yes, it's a little bit visible. But of course, when you turn on the display, it almost is not really that visible. Xiaomi said that it has a lifespan of 200,000 folds. Probably for me, it can last me of up to 2 years or more. What do you think? Now, there's a little something that I still want to tell you about this phone. It has the liquid lens technology, which is the first in any phone in the world. Now, this phone has triple camera setup. It has a 108 MP wide sensor, which has an aperture of 1.8. Together with it is the 8 MP telephoto lens slash macro lens, which this one has the liquid lens. It can zoom up to 3 times optical zoom. And later, I'll show you that it's really, really fast in focusing. We did have a chance to zoom in the liquid lens of this camera. We can see inside. It's really something else, like a rainbow finish, like a reactor of Iron Man or whatever you call it. It's really awesome. This is using a microscopic 1000 times zoom just to see what's inside this liquid lens that Xiaomi is talking about, which is probably the first, well, actually, it's the first in its industry, the liquid lens. Then also, it has a 13 MP ultra wide lens up front. On the front screen, it has a 20 MP front-facing camera. Focusing on this phone using the liquid lens technology, I can say focusing on macro and focusing on zoom, it's really, really freaking fast. To be honest with you, I have yet to try any phone that can focus as fast as this one. I had the Mi 10 Ultra, but for me, sometimes I still have some difficulty in focusing. But this one, it can focus so freaking fast. Now, how about let's check some photos out from this phone. Now, I can say the photos on this phone is pretty nice, but of course, I cannot say that this one can even match that of the Mi 11 Ultra. The Mi 11 Ultra is the #1 on the DxO mark. This one, I have yet to see it on the chart. But overall, outdoors, it has great photos. Indoors, it is very legible. Also, if you turn on the night mode, it's still looking good. Now, on the front-facing camera, I can say that, of course, it still have some adjustment to do, probably with the firmware. Sometimes on a little bit of dark spot, it has a little bit of difficulty focusing on the lighting. But overall, with proper lighting, the front-facing camera gave me some pretty nice, decent shots. How about trying some videos on this phone? Now, taking videos on this phone is really fun. I can use the inside screen, the unfolded screen, and it gave me a very nice view using that 8.01 inch of display, and having to focus and see the whole picture is definitely a very nice experience. of this phone. Now, the video quality definitely is nice. And I can say that, well, it's not super duper stable, but it's still very, very decent. Now for the front camera, I can say that it really had a little bit of difficulty, of course, adjusting to the lighting. When I spin around on a certain area, I can see that on dark spot, it really darkened my face. And of course, on brighter spots, it gave me a good look of myself. And of course, it might be corrected on future firmware updates. Now guys, I did have a good time using this phone. It's really nice. But of course, for me, I still feel that it's a little bit fragile, don't you think? And now, of course, for my verdict of this phone. For me, this phone is really nice. Though it's a little bit heavy and a little bit expensive, but having this phone definitely gave me a very, very nice experience. Now, having to drive with this phone mounted on my dashboard, I can really navigate the Google Maps so easily, and probably the passenger can watch some YouTube videos while I'm driving, which is definitely a very nice experience to have having a mobile phone like this one. And it's like having a mini iPad inside your pocket. And so, what do you think of this phone, the Mi Mix Fold? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's worth it? Comment on the comment section below. So let's have a small discussion on how you feel about this phone. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, click that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos here from my channel. So I hope to catch you on the next video. Goodbye.